Good evening and welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. Waiting too long. NHS figures show patients in our region are waiting over 4 times longer than they should for an ambulance.
It's scary. It's a scary time, I think, at the minute, especially for elderly and young people that can't access the services that they need. It's a scary time to be living in it.
We hear how the NHS in our region is responding to the pressure. Also tonight. 185 jobs at Liberty Steel in Rotherham are at risk, with the company blaming soaring energy costs. The Levelling Up Minister says the policy is still a government priority as she visits a skills village in Scarborough.
Hello, I'm Widow Twanky.
And I'm the genie of the lamp.
And you can meet us and plenty more people besides backstage at one of Yorkshire's longest running amateur pantomimes, only on Look North. Oh yes it is.
Yeah, baby.
Lots happening weather-wise. Gales developing later tonight, more rain Saturday and a colder snap for next week. Join me for the very latest.
Good evening and thanks for your company. The pressures on our local NHS services are continuing to mount. In a moment, we'll hear about your recent experiences of the health service. The latest data from NHS England, published earlier today, shows how A&E departments across our region and Yorkshire Ambulance Service are struggling to meet targets under significant pressure. In December, 134,000 patients visited a major emergency department at one of our 13 trusts in the region. The government say 95% of patients should be dealt with within 4 hours. But at the trusts that provided waiting time data in our region, just over half of patients were seen within the target. If we look at ambulances, they should respond to Category 2 emergency calls, which include heart attacks and strokes, in an average of 18 minutes. Well, last month, the average for Yorkshire Ambulance Service was 1 hour and 18 minutes. That's the picture painted by the latest data. But how are patients feeling about the strain on our health service? Corinne Wheatley has been speaking to families in Leeds.
Thursday is toddler time at St Edmunds in Roundhay. The group brings all the generations together and between them they're accessing almost every part of the health service at a time when the NHS is under immense pressure. It's a concern for everyone.
A couple of days after Christmas, my mum actually fell over, so we took her to the hospital. Initially the waiting time was about 15 hours and then they sent her home, no break or anything, but then they called her the next day to say that she had actually fractured her ankle. And then she's waited 12 days to actually be seen again to see whether they're going to put a pot on it or what the next course of action is. So obviously that's a huge amount of time to wait.
Our only experiences with the GP, and to be fair, they've been very good. I had an annual health check last week and they're still doing those, which was very efficient.
I couldn't fault the maternity unit at St James Hospital. They were brilliant, really good from start to finish, all through my pregnancy and everything. But I have to say, since having Lily, I've had a lot of problem with the doctors. Trying to get doctor's appointments for her or my 2 older sons is an absolute nightmare.
With pressure on frontline services, more people may turn elsewhere for help. Martin is a pharmacist in Sheffield and says it's the busiest they've been in 50 years. Staffing problems and abuse from the public are added challenges.
A lot of the people phoning up are phoning up because they can't get through to certain places. We just had a phone call just now that was saying that they can't get through to their doctor and wanted us to get through, but we're stuck with the same phone lines. People have been a lot more short-tempered, you might say. We've had a lot of problems with abuse from customers, and it's not acceptable.
Back in Leeds, while patient experiences are mixed, many families share the same worries for the future.
Sometimes we do get a GP appointment, but they haven't got time for you because there's so many, right? So we have had to go private. I don't blame the GPs. I'm sorry, I blame the government.
It's a scary time, I think, at the minute, especially for elderly and young people that can't access the services that they need. It's a scary time to be living in. And obviously when you've got young children as well, what's it going to be like for them when they get older? Is it going to improve or is it going to just gradually get worse? Corinne
Wheatley, BBC Look North.
New analysis by Politics North suggests 1,200 ambulance patients in the region potentially suffered harm last week because of long delays in transferring them from the back of an ambulance into hospital. The Association of Ambulance Chief Executives has said patients can be harmed if they have to wait more than an hour to be transferred. Yorkshire Ambulance Service today said it was working with its partners to address the issue of delayed transfers. David Rhodes is here with his analysis.
Every part of the NHS is under pressure, but those pressures are most acute in emergency care. For weeks, those on the front line have spoken of the realities they are confronting.
The demand that we're seeing is huge. The very, very long waits to be seen by a doctor. And for those that need admission to hospitals, huge waits for a bed in really poor conditions, I'm afraid.
We're waiting hours in hospitals. We're overloaded. We can't get to all the patients that we need to get to. So basically, people are dying unnecessarily.
When an ambulance arrives at a hospital, it's taking longer to transfer patients into the care of A&E. A report in 2021 by the Association of Ambulance Chief Executives stated that a study had found that over 8 out of 10, or 85%, of those patients whose handover was delayed beyond 60 minutes were assessed as potentially experiencing some form of harm. Figures published by NHS England this morning show around 1,500 ambulance patients in our region had to wait more than an hour to be transferred from an ambulance into the care of a hospital. 85% of those patients, according to ambulance chief executives, may have suffered some form of harm. That potentially means last week 1,200 patients in our region suffered harm because of these ambulance transfer delays.
Well, undoubtedly, the NHS pressures are causing people to have delays in receiving treatment. So we know, for example, that for things like stroke, the quicker you get treated after you've had your stroke, the better.
A spokesperson for the Yorkshire Ambulance Service said it was working with its partners to address the issue of delayed transfers, as well as reducing waiting times for those needing an emergency ambulance. There is a wider debate within the medical profession currently about how many people are dying unnecessarily because of the pressures the NHS is facing. With those pressures on the health service set to persist, concerns will remain about how many patients may be experiencing harm. David Rhodes, BBC Look North.
So, what's causing the problems and how is the NHS in our region responding to the pressures? Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson has been speaking to Dr James Thomas, the medical director of the West Yorkshire Integrated Care Board, which brings health and social care together. He began by asking him how difficult the situation is at the moment.
The West Yorkshire Health and Care Services are under extreme pressure at the moment there, and that's because of increasing demand that we're seeing, especially with over the winter period with a lot of the respiratory viruses, COVID and flu. But a lot of our staff are really working hard to kind of maintain that flow so patients and people can get the care that they need.
If you look at Yorkshire Ambulance Service at the moment, the response time for Category 2 emergency calls is 1 hour and 18 minutes. That is deeply worrying, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. It is worrying for people. It's worrying for me as an individual, for family members in hearing those figures there. What I would say is that our ambulance services are working as hard as they can to make sure that they get to the right people quickly to get them to the right place. And whilst those figures aren't what we want to be seeing, I know that from the discussions and working with the ambulance service that they're doing as much as they can. And it's not just the ambulance service, it's about the whole system coming together.
One of the things we hear from a lot of people is concern about access to care, whether that's A&E, whether it's their GP, whether it is getting an ambulance if they call for one. What can you tell people about whether they will get the right care when they need it?
We're seeing more people in general practice and having consultation in general practice. We're seeing more people in the hospital setting. The access we are increasing and we have seen lots of different routes of increasing that access there, but the demand is also increasing.
Realistically, when do you see this situation improving?
in all honesty, whilst we're seeing glimpses of hope there, it's going to take time. And we know that the NHS responds, but we also know that people are tired and are working really hard. So it's really important to understand that everyone is doing what they can to ensure that we are getting the right services and people are able to access those services.
What would you say to people who may feel they need help, but then also, hearing all of this, worry about perhaps coming forward for it?
I think it's about absolutely getting the message that if you need to be seen urgently, please come forward. Do not stay at home worrying about it. But if it's not urgent, then please go online to 111 and have a look at the resources there and see where you can be directed to get the care you needed in the quickest way.
Next this evening, 185 jobs are at risk at Liberty Steel in Rotherham due to surging energy costs. Owners GFG Alliance say steel production using the electric arc furnaces will be reduced due to uncompetitive operating costs. Here's our business correspondent, Spencer Stokes.
Producing high-quality steels uses vast amounts of energy. With the electricity price up, Liberty have taken the decision to reduce the amount of time their arc furnaces operate for. Unions say production will be cut from around 200,000 tonnes a year to around 100,000 tonnes. As a result, fewer workers will be needed, up to 185, now looking at redeployment or voluntary redundancy.
Obviously they're frustrated. They're frustrated because they've been talking about growth for the last 2 years, and now we're not growing, we're cutting back. So it's always upsetting when redundancies are talked about, because obviously they're fearing for their own livelihoods.
In a statement this afternoon, Liberty Steel said the production of some products has become unviable in the short term due to high energy costs and imports from countries without the same environmental standards. As a result, production through Rotherham's electric arc furnaces will be temporarily reduced, whilst uncompetitive operating conditions prevail. Liberty are having to pay up to 4 times as much for their electricity compared with pre-pandemic levels. Prices have fallen back a bit in recent weeks, but not by enough to make this plant truly competitive with European rivals. The announcement comes in the same week the government said there would be reduced energy support for businesses after March. Liberty maintain their decision to reduce output isn't linked to a specific government decision. And the government say that steel plays a critical role in all areas of the UK economy, and they're working closely with the industry to secure a sustainable future. But Rotherham's Labour MP feels more could be done to bolster the sector.
I just feel particularly frustrated and angry that we went through all of Brexit, which should have allowed our government to support our businesses and buy our steel. And still we're looking at an absolute core industry for our region. Well, I can't see it's going to survive this. That's my biggest fear right now.
We've got to get some action. We can't just let an all steel industry go, because it's not just Liberty, it's British Steel, it's Tata. Everybody's struggling due to the energy crisis in this country.
Rotherham's sister plant at Stocksbridge is unaffected by today's announcement, and the company says it still hopes to increase production when market conditions allow. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North, Rotherham.
More than 7 years ago, a severe skills shortage was identified on the coast in Scarborough. Opportunity for young people and well-paid jobs are a challenge for coastal communities, which often see young people leaving and an ageing population. But work is underway to change that. And today, the government's Levelling Up Minister dropped in on one project to check on its progress. Olivia Richwald reports.
Levelling Up Minister Dehenna Davidson getting trained in digger driving. She's one of the Tories' young stars, but will need a new job soon after announcing she won't stand at the next general election. Until then, the County Durham MP is in charge of levelling up, the phrase for combating regional inequality. And she was impressed by a tour of Scarborough's construction skills village.
Seeing the opportunities that are here for young people to come and train, get real kind of on-the-job experience and really broaden their horizons is absolutely fantastic.
The village was set up 7 years ago teaching building trades. It's recently received £500,000 to add environmental building skills to that training.
Solar panel, installation and maintenance, air source heat pumps, installation and maintenance. We're looking at retrofit courses and we'll look at dry lining courses, all of which will hopefully come online later the springtime.
The Construction Skills Village here is not a college, it's a hub where apprentices come to hone their skills. It was set up 7 years ago because there was a severe shortage of skilled tradespeople here in Scarborough, and its position now in the heart of a massive new build estate is not an accident.
I like how it's an environment away from a classroom, because I never settled well with working behind a desk. I like using my hands.
Really good, people friendly. If you need any help, they're there to help you.
I was working at a pub and I just thought it wasn't the life for me, and I wanted a trade or something with a career. So I came to Skills Village and they started me out on an apprenticeship with EMCE, who I'm still with now. It's been absolutely amazing.
Levelling up was one of the big election pledges in 2019 when Boris Johnson turned former Labour seats Conservative. And Scarborough received almost £22 million from the Towns Fund, which was part of that agenda. But there have been concerns that levelling up is not a priority for the current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak.
New Year's speech that he didn't mention levelling up once. And yet we have a levelling up department, and with Michael Gove in post. Are we achieving? Well, what I'm doing is I'm saying that we need to go further with levelling up.
So I don't think it has moved down the agenda at all. I don't think since Boris Johnson levelling up has fallen anywhere. I think it's always been right at the front and centre, not just because obviously it's something that we promised in that manifesto back in 2019, but frankly, it's probably the country's #1 moral mission.
Over the past 7 years, 250 apprentices have been trained here, and soon environmental trades will be added to the curriculum. So, if the Levelling Up Minister Dehenna Davison fancies a career change when she steps down from politics, she may find that opportunity awaits in Scarborough. Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North.
The family of a 19-year-old girl from Yorkshire who's died of a rare form of bone cancer say they're determined to raise £100,000 for charity that supported them. Lulu Blundell from Rotherham died on New Year's Day this year of Ewing sarcoma. She managed to raise an amazing £80,000 for the Teenage Cancer Trust in her lifetime. Mark Ansell reports.
The overriding thing about her is her smile. She would always have a smile and be able to laugh. And I think in the latter periods where we were caring for her at home, we laughed about a lot of things that people might find really very odd. But the level of trust, I suppose, and the level of our relationships was such that it was okay.
Lulu Blundell was originally diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer aged 15 and had to have a leg amputated. She was determined to fundraise for the Teenage Cancer Trust, whose staff supported her at hospitals in Sheffield. When she was re-diagnosed with Ewing's sarcoma last year, Lulu called the charity to say she wanted to raise even more money for them and staged a 5-kilometre run in Sheffield.
Bear in mind she had a prosthetic limb and she had tumours in her shoulder, in her ribs, in her chest, in her spine. She managed to finish 5K and it was a hugely emotional experience.
In total, Lulu raised a staggering £80,000 for the charity.
The impact that Teenage Cancer Trust had on Lulu was that no matter what she was going through, what she wanted to do was give back to other young people. Somewhere in Sheffield today, right now, there will be a young person, a teenager, and their parents sitting in the car waiting to go into the hospital to be told they've got cancer. Teenage Cancer Trust is around a young person never being alone with that.
We're going to have a moment's applause to remember Lulu and to celebrate how she lived her life.
Lulu was a huge rugby fan and worked for Newcastle Falcons while at university in the city. She made the most of life and her family wants to encourage people to do the same.
When you live with somebody who's terminally ill, what you do is you really are very aware of the time that you've got with those people, that person, so you absolutely make the most of it. But I think that there's a lesson for all of us in that, because you don't know what's around the corner.
Lulu's family are carrying on where she left off. They're aiming to raise £100,000 for the Teenage Cancer Trust. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, Rotherham.
What an incredible young woman. Good luck to her family. Now, West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service is urging councils to restart organised bonfire night events to help reduce antisocial behaviour. Many large events have not been held since 2019 because of concerns about COVID-19 and then because of pressures on council budgets. A report by the service asking councils to encourage organised events this year will go before West Yorkshire Fire Authority's Community Safety Committee tomorrow. Yorkshire Water says the most common cause of blocked sewers is wet wipes being flushed down the loo. Out of 25,000 blockages last year, nearly half were caused by wet wipes being flushed away. And the company is asking people to really consider what they're putting in the toilet. The bus operator, Arriva, says major roadworks in Leeds city centre are causing real problems for services as passengers complain of regular delays and some buses even getting stuck. The roadworks began in September and will eventually see City Square traffic-free. The council thanked people for their patience and hope the work will be completed by early summer. Sport now. The draw for the first two rounds of the 2023 Rugby League Challenge Cup, as well as the women's draw, are being made now at Wembley Stadium. Both the women's and the men's finals will be staged at Wembley for the first time later this year. You can watch the whole draw event, hosted by Look North's Tanya Arnold, live or on catch-up on the BBC Sports website. Meanwhile, England women's football star Beth Mead, originally from North Yorkshire, of course, has been nominated for yet another prestigious award today. This one is from World Football's governing body, FIFA. Mead was top scorer in the Women's Euros tournament, won by England last summer on home soil, of course. And less than a month since collecting her BBC Sports Personality of the Year award, Mead is now one of 14 nominees for Best FIFA Women's Player. The winner will be announced at a ceremony next month. Now, the glitter cannons have been loaded and the high-energy dance numbers are being practised as we speak. Christmas might be over, but at the Montgomery Theatre in Sheffield, the panto season is just getting started. The origins of the Wales Community Theatre players go back to the 1940s, and this year it's Aladdin.
Oh no, it isn't.
Oh yes, it is, and Phil Bodmer's getting a sneak peek at the dress rehearsal.
I can smell, Keely, I can smell the grease pan. I can almost hear the roar of the crowd. Welcome to one of Sheffield's oldest theatres, and welcome also to one of the region's longest established amateur theatre companies, putting on their production of Aladdin, as you say. Tonight is a dress rehearsal. Let's talk to some of the cast of the characters who are involved in this. Let's talk to Joe Bairstow. Joe, what do you play?
I'm the genie, baby.
You're looking very smart, I have to say. You're a barrister by day. Do you find that some people perhaps don't take you seriously when they know what you do at night?
Well, as you can imagine, I don't talk like that, and I don't usually dress and look like this. So, yeah, there's a bit of a separation there.
This is very much a charity, a community group, and all the money raised goes back into the theatre, doesn't it?
That's exactly right, yeah. Everything goes back into the next show that we're going to do, and so that we can get as many people in and bring the arts to the community.
Well, I wish you well tonight. Let's talk to Tony Cook. Tony, what's your role?
I'm peekaboo this year, so I'm the handmaiden to Princess Soshai, who is our principal girl.
And you play that role, but what do you do by day?
I'm an NHS dentist by day.
And do your patients know that you get dressed up at night and come along to theatres like this?
I think they will do now.
And you've been here since you were 5, is that right?
That's correct. So 30 years ago tonight, actually, was the first time I stood on this stage at age 5, yes.
That's a remarkable record and a testament to the company as well. Alison Wade. Alison, just explain, what role are you playing tonight?
I'm Pico, so I'm the love interest of Peekaboo. I've been doing this for 38 years now, so I've,
38 years since you were obviously very, very young, because you look young now.
Nice.
What do you do as a job?
I'm an administrator for my husband's electrical contracting business, and this is just like a big family. We accept anybody of any age, any ability, and we've got no audition policy for joining our group, so it's just like one big family, and we have so much fun.
And no audition policy rings absolutely true, because anybody can be dragged off the street to come on stage and perform. And on that subject, one of the principal characters is Widow Twanky.
Hello, Widow Twanky here. Twanky's Laundry open every day but Mondays. We'll freshen up your frocks and socks, and then we'll even Press your undies, Philip. Would you like your undies pressing?
I need my undies pressing.
Something you need your undies doing.
Twanky, can I ask, what do you do during the daytime?
I know you can't possibly ask what I do during the daytime because the boss is watching, and if the boss is watching now, I want to reassure her that I'm servicing the community here, working very, very hard, digging out stories, and absolutely getting stuck in. Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Well, the production, thank you so much for your time
Goodbye.
with Twanky.
Goodbye, Philip.
The production gets underway this weekend, rehearsal tonight. I have to say, I feel slightly upstaged and very, very underdressed. Keely,
He's a very naughty boy. He's a very naughty boy, is
Thank
Philip.
you, Twanky.
Yes.
Oh dear, the thought of Phil's underwear at dinner time.
Well, he got your name right that time, didn't he, Amy, or Keely, whoever you are.
I've not been away for that long.
Now then, welcome back. It's lovely to see you back.
Thank you.
And I thought we'd start tonight with a bit of a weather quiz.
Oh, good.
Because there's a very rare cloud that's turned up in Wakefield. Name that cloud, Keely.
Some kind of wave cloud?
Not bad. It's a Kelvin-Helmholtz cloud, which is very, very rare, and it's caused by dramatic wind shear. So basically what's happening there, the wind speed at the bottom of the cloud is much slower than the wind speed at the top of the cloud, and it's ripping those hooks off. And it's really rare. I've never seen it. You get it sometimes across the Pennines.
Well, I don't feel too bad for not getting it wrong.
No.
Very interesting, thank you.
Right, anytime. Let's have a look at the second picture. That's up at Farnley Tyres there. A very nice picture indeed, Castle Hill. And the third picture, well, that butterfly in Chapeltown says, never mind Marion in Newton-on-Ouse with her primrose. Look at mine, it's better. So that's a very early flowering primrose there in Sheffield. If you've got any pictures you want to send in, any flowering daffodils or primroses, send them to the addresses on your screen right now. So the main feature of the weather in the next 24 hours will be the strength of the wind. Widespread gales developing, gusts 50, 60 miles an hour. I think in exposure, it'll be even higher than that. It could be up to 70 miles an hour-ish across some exposed Pennine parts. And then Saturday, the next weather system brings rain in from the west. And then a real change coming the transitional day, Sunday, less windy, quite chilly. And then next week, the first cold spell since the first half of December, a return to brilliant blue skies and sunshine, but night frost and the chance of some sleet and snow showers. Now, there are the showers that race through today. We're looking up to the northwest, where there's some showery outbreaks of rain just heading into the Yorkshire Dales now. These showery outbreaks will push all the way southeastwards, driven on by that strengthening wind with gales fairly widespread during the second half of the night. We'll see temperatures coming in at around 5 or 6 degrees. So tomorrow's high water times in Scarborough 8:02 and again at 8:10. So very windy in the morning, problems for high-sided vehicles. There'll be a scattering of showers, mainly across the Pennines tomorrow. I think further east, a lot of dry and sunny weather. And even further west, there will be some sunshine in between those blustery showers that will become increasingly isolated later in the day as the wind tends to ease down. Temperatures around 9 Celsius, that's 48 Fahrenheit. Some rain at first on Saturday, brighter later. Some sunshine, 1 or 2 showers on Sunday. And look at that drop off in temperatures, a return of night frosts. That's the forecast.
Thank you very much. We might drop the weather quiz, but Paul and I will be back as part of the news at 10 at around 10:30. Until then, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.